Hey everyone, amazing news. The official hardcore servers have been announced. I'm going to be walking through them with you. But essentially, if you're here for the quick stuff, PTR is going to be launched June 29th, and release date is to be determined. But there are official WoW hardcore servers. I'm going to be going through some of the overview first, and then we're going to go deeper into the developer notes. Let's see here. So officially, it was announced on a tweet. And the main things that we know about it so far is that Blizzard states that there will be no restricting of trading, mail, auction house, or person-to-person trading. From what I've heard, that this is the original intent of hardcore, which is super hard to police. So awesome. Soul of Iron buff will not be necessary because there's no resurrecting. So once you die, you will be 100%. You will not be able to play that character again, but you can transfer it to another character and continue playing on a normal server. At level 60, dungeon restrictions will be removed, so you can spam them. But for people that are leveling below 60, you can do one dungeon every 24 hours. To prevent boosting, if there's a large gap in levels, there will be reduced experience. There's going to be no changes to world buffs. The buff and debuff limit will be entirely removed. Regarding PvP and griefing, the server is going to be a PvE only server, and they're making lots of additions to make sure that people don't get griefed. There will be no recovering of characters, so they're going to be trying to prevent any of that as much as possible. And there'll be no battlegrounds because of this. They said that, essentially everyone's going to play too defensively if there's hardcore battlegrounds. So they're just going to disable it. But what they are doing is adding a duel to the death. So you can do a war mode or a war game and duel someone to the death. And that person will forever, the one of them is going to never be able to play again. And I can think of all this fun tournaments that we could do around that. Escort mobs will not be attacked by faction players. They'll be building a new system for enemy mobs, preventing them from crossing zone boundaries. So, people bringing massive elites into Stormwind and killing people and all that stuff. That's going to be prevented with the new system. For the PTR specifically, level cap is 30. So if you want to test it, I know I'm going to be testing it. I would love for you to join me on stream. Level 30. There's going to be new mechanics to prevent disconnect deaths, such as falling from a flight or things like that. Blizzard will not be under any circumstances, though. Blizzard will not be restoring characters, so that is something to watch out for. That kind of sucks, but realistically, how would they do that, right? There's no bubble hearthing. They removed that, and then there's no reincarnation or soulstone, and things like that. Blizzard will not be making any changes to Flask of Petrification, and then there will be announcements regarding deaths. So as hitting level 60, there will be a server-wide announcement, and then only the death announcements will be related to the guild, and not like server-wide. So that's kind of like an overview of the changes. Hopefully that's exciting to you. If you want more, I'm going to read through literally the detailed version. So we're going super high level. It starts at the PTR is coming out. It's official, to the overview, and then also now we're going into details and the reasons behind all of the changes. I'm going to be linking all the Twitter, statuses, all of the Wowhead pages, so you can go on yourself as well. So don't worry. So I'm going to kind of just read through this and give my comments as we go through it. So it's official. Hardcore realms are coming to World of Warcraft. Awesome. Who's excited? Let's get it. Players will have the opportunity to show that they have the edge, the grit, the very will to engage with Azeroth and its denizens and their fellow players to survive. So the rules of engagement are, but there are rules, as there always are. Here are the rules for wowclassic realms, hardcore, and a bit of behind the scenes thoughts. So death on hardcore realm is permanent on that realm. That means if you die, you won't be able to run back to your corpse and resurrect, nor can you be resurrected by any other spell or ability. This means that if you have abilities as a part of your class, such as Shaman Reincarnation or Warlock Soulstone, they won't be of any use. You will continue to exist in the game as a ghost to facilitate communication with in-game friends and resolve logistical matters such as handing over guild leadership if you're a guild master who has died of an unfortunate death at the hands of a devious bandit or some other deadly creature. Your character is not necessarily lost if you die, however. After dying on a hardcore realm, players will be able to utilize the free character move service and move their dead character to a non-hardcore era realm. I love that it's free. That is so nice. Super cool feature that you can continue playing. I think that's really good. Once the move is complete to the non-hardcore realm, that character may resurrect as normal, but the way back to the hardcore realm will be closed to them. Sweet. Overall, I think those are really good changes. PvP flagging you. Players are no longer to automatically be flagged for PvP upon attacking another player. To flag yourself for PvP, you must type the command /PvP. You won't be able to take hostile actions against a flagged enemy player unless you flag yourself deliberately. I like this a lot. I don't want people to accidentally flag themselves for PvP. That's the worst. There's some quests that do that. That sucks, but this is going to be awesome. That you have to very intentionally do it. It's a /PvP. We've added this failsafe to prevent situations in which a player could unintentionally take aggressive action against another player who's flagged for PvP. We all know that those quests in the early Elwyn zones or whatever, where there's a rogue sitting there and accidentally flagging yourself. So those griefers will be fixed. By requiring players to type PvP /PvP before engaging in PvP content, this maintains fairness and keeps PvP as a consensual part of the game. It also reduces the likelihood of someone will be tricked into becoming flagged unintentionally. It's important to note that attacking an enemy faction NPC will still flag you even if you haven't typed /PvP. So steer clear of settlements of the opposing faction. That's all pretty straightforward. I really like that change. Makes it you have to be very intentional for PvP, which is something that I'm sure a lot of people have died to. PvP battlegrounds and warfare. PvP battlegrounds are completely disabled, as are all PvP battle masters. You may still enter pre-made war games, but you may not gain honor or PvP reputation from war games. While PvP is a fun part of World of Warcraft by allowing players to enter battlegrounds on one-life characters, there is a concern that they would lead to overly defensive play, often to the point of non-participation, especially when you consider how powerful some rewards are from factions such as Stormpike Guard and the Frostwolf Clan. PvP is not the focus of the hardcore game mode, so we've decided to just disable it entirely. If you wish to test yourself in a pre-arranged war game, however, that's an available option. War games confer no honor, no other rewards. Beware, if you engage in war games, death is still permanent. Cool. PvP and quest updates. Various quests and objectives that cause players to become PvP flags, such as the quest The Attack and the Missing Diplomat, no longer cause people to become flagged for PvP. I like this a ton because so many people are like super anxious about what class flags you, and no one wants to, unknowingly die. These quests were never strictly meant for you to flag you for PvP, but was a result of how the creatures were set up at the time, and was likely a result of an early technical limitation. We no longer have this limitation, and to prevent unintended consequences or gotchas after accepting innocuous-looking quests, we decided to no longer cause these quests to flag you for PvP. Various quests and objectives that require the player to die or complete or initiate the quest or objective may now be completed without the player's demise. While these quests are iconic and flavorful, the requirements of the character to be in a state of death is obviously problematic on a hardcore realm. As a result, we have designed new ways to complete these quests without requiring your character to die or to be dead upon completing them. Many quests that require escorting NPC targets that have been adjusted in such a way that that most escort-related NPCs may no longer be attacked by players of the opposing faction. Many quest-related NPCs, particularly low-level, are easily killed, and there's very little counterplay to high-level players of the opposing faction running up, killing your escort NPC, and then running away. This is a vector for gameplay disruption that we don't really feel has a place in the game, nor does it add anything meaningful to PvP. Cool. I'm on board with all those changes. Danger leashed. Most creatures will leash and reset and leaving the area or zone they were engaged in. As much as we enjoyed frequent visits from Terramius the Devourer in Stormwind or wandering Devilsaurs in Thousand Needles, being able to drag or kite high-level monsters to lower-level areas is a large vector for gameplay disruption and something that doesn't have a place in WoW Classic Hardcore. I agree. It is funny though, but it's super annoying. The total range that the monsters can be pulled as currently fairly large, but can be easily adjusted. We'll be watching for feedback on this implementation for those participating in the PTR. The goal is to prevent high-level characters from kiting dangerous monsters across entire zones, but we don't want to interfere with the legitimate gameplay, such as hunters kiting elite monsters to do solo difficult quests or similar expressions of skill. Dungeons on the clock. All dungeons have a 24-hour lockout for players below 60. Not entirely sure how I feel about this, if a positive or negative. It used to be one dungeon per entire run. Now it's one per day. All the most important aspects of wowclassic hardcore realms is engaging in adventures in the outside world with other players. Creating random and serendipitous interactions is a core aspect of the original release of World of Warcraft, and spending most of your leveling time in dungeons is counter in spirit to what hardcore is all about. We do recognize that there may be a desire to run a dungeon while leveling multiple times, such as to finish a quest or get an important piece of loot. As a result, we've added a 24-hour timer to almost all dungeons for players until they hit level 60. By extension, this also means that level 60 players may never enter low-level dungeons with players below level 60 for any reason. I like that. No, for the boosting stuff. Additionally, we've carried over the group experience restrictions from Season of Mastery, meaning that players that are significantly higher level than the creatures in a given dungeon will cause those creatures to grant trivial experience and the other members of the group. Higher level characters power leveling, lower level characters are not something that we feel is appropriate for wowclassic hardcore. To buff or not to buff? The 16 debuff limit and the 32 buff limits have been removed on hardcore realms. Debuff and buff limits were originally a technical limitation in the earliest versions of World of Warcraft, and is now not a conscious design choice at the time. The aspect of the original release of was maintained for the release of World of Warcraft Classic 2019 for authenticity, but this has always been a contentious part of WoW and places significant constraints on buff and class diversity. As a result, we will be removing the limitation on hardcore realms and effectively uncapping buffs and debuffs. Bubble Hearth is no more. Paladins will not be able to use the Hearthstone while under the effects of Blessing of Protection, Divine Protection, or Divine Shield on hardcore realms. Being able to bubble Hearth is fairly iconic, if not exactly heroic, feature of the Paladin class. However, the reincarnation ability is also an iconic feature of the Shaman class. While Paladins have enormous tools to prevent death, the Shaman's core tools to recover from death is wholly incompatible with hardcore. As a result, removing the ability for Paladins to use their various abilities to cast Hearthstone and escape danger. The big one right here is a duel to the death. This is super cool. I could see some tournaments happening. I'd be totally into it. New feature has been added to hardcore realms, duel to the death. To issue a duel to the death, you will need to right-click a player's target portrait and request a duel to the death from the context menu. A duel to the death can also be triggered by selecting the target and typing Makara in your chat window. Before commencing combat, both parties must read and acknowledge a warning message and type I agree to begin. This is so cool. One may expect death in a duel to the death is permanent, just like any other death in hardcore realms. We feel like this is going to be extremely exciting addition to hardcore realms for those who like to play at the highest possible stakes and those who wish to spectate such contests of honor. Since bragging rights are important, we will be tracking the number of kills Loktar Ogar you will receive in duels to the death with a special cosmetic buff on your victory or on your character called Strings of Ears. Each time you win a duel, you will receive a trophy, and that stack count will increase by 1. Anyone who clicks on their character will be able to see what kind of frightful combatant you are by the number of ears you've collected. There's some limitation to this, however. You cannot earn the String of Ears buff before level 10, and you cannot earn the buff if you and your opponent are too many levels apart. That's going to be super, 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 super cool. All content phases available from the go. Hardcore Realms will have their original WoW content phases unlocked and available right at launch. One of the things we love about the hardcore mode of play is that the end game is not the focus. And most of the gameplay revolves around the journey, not the destination. This also makes hardcore gameplay evergreen, meaning that it's always a good time to pop in and experience it, regardless of what else is happening in the other versions of World of Warcraft. When considering whether to do progressive phase unlocks or on the hardcore servers or not, one of the things that concerned the wowclassic team was that what psychological impact the following 2019 Classic or Season of Mastery version of progression content unlocks might have on players. We see players often ask, is it too late to start playing shortly after the new version of WoW or of content is released? While the answer is always no, there's still undeniable social pressure to keep up in the current content phase, even if the content being released is beyond your level of progression. By removing content unlocks from the equation and having everything open and available from the start, it removes that pressure for the average player to hurry up and hit max level for the next unlock, especially when most content phase unlocks revolve entirely around endgame content. We are highly sensitive to this in a world where leveling itself is a huge challenge, and players may want to enjoy that journey at their own pace. On the other side of this, we also feel like that most dedicated players who want to test themselves in this environment, it could be very exciting to watch how efficiently such a group of players can reach 60, progressing through raid dungeons such as Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, on Mirage, and Nexramus, while starting from nothing within the closed ecosystem that is a new server. As anyone who has done a raid in hardcore can tell you, it's just because you can access something like on Kara or Nexramus doesn't mean you should, and doing so unprepared is likely to be a disaster. Gameplay, zone disruption, and malicious player killings outside of consensual PvP will not be tolerated on hardcore realms. By this we mean deliberate actions to hamper or significantly impede the ability of another player to enjoy the game, such as, but not limited to, repeatedly killing quest NPCs or kiting important quest mobs away from their spawn location to prevent them from being killed. Most importantly, this also includes taking actions to deliberately cause the death of another player, such as, but not limited to, kiting higher level or elite mobs onto the near other players with the intent that they may take damage and die, or deliberately causing a wipe in a raid or dungeon group. This is not a PvP realm. The normal PvP realm rules do not in any way apply to this realm. Outside of the normal duel to the death, consensual PvP flagging or war games kiting or killing other players isn't the core goal of hardcore gameplay. If players are found to be to make it their goal to take part in this kind of disruptive playstyle, we reserve the right to take immediate action and decisive action against anyone found to be deliberately causing this disruption to the other players on these realms, including permanent account closure. On the flip side of this, report bombing or intentionally using rule set against players to attempt to get their account actioned will also be met with equally harsh penalties. This can and will happen in normal gameplay, and retaliation or resorting to bullying, abuse, or malicious reporting for normal gameplay deaths are not appropriate. For example, if you're in a dungeon group and the tank ends up taking too much damage and dies despite all the efforts of the healer of the group, it's not appropriate for someone to report the healer. While that death is unfortunate, it is a legitimate gameplay, and the best thing to do is remain understanding and empathetic, learn that the lessons that you came from the situation, try again. Ultimately, it's critical to the health of these realms that the players play nice and fair with one another, and we will take any hostile or abusive actions that occur between players very seriously. Upon character creation, you will be prompted to agree to both the hazards of hardcore realm and that the death is permanent and irrevocable, as well as the rules behind behavior between players. As with any new development, we'll be keeping a close eye on player behavior during the test phase, just as needed. We want WoW Hardcore to be fun and challenging experience for anyone who wants to jump to the action. Do you have what it takes to go hardcore? You'll be able to check out Classic Hardcore on the public test realms. Awesome. So that is all the details you could possibly need. There is no official release date, but there is PTR June 29th. I will be live streaming this and playing it. And then I will also be playing just when it comes out. So if you made it this far, I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the stream.